The new channel. The new channel.
The views, opinions, and insights expressed in the following show are those of the hosts, producers, guests, and viewers. They do not necessarily reflect the position of the channel. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to the new channel. We are here to help you see the new you. My name is Lee O'Brien, and this is the world premiere of Foreign Affairs. Good morning, everybody who's watching Foreign Affairs. My name is Lee O'Brien. Good morning if you're here in the Philippines watching us, and if you're around the world. I know we're at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern time over in the United States, but I know we got people tuning in from all over the place. So thank you all for being here. Really, really appreciate it. Foreign Affairs, what is this show all about? Well, the idea kind of came to me during my last visit when Lloyd Luna, producer of this show, was nice enough to host me on his show. And so I thought, it'd be great to have a perspective from someone else's viewpoint apart from many of the people on this network who are Filipinos. And the people of the new channel were very nice enough to allow me a space called Foreign Affairs to explain what it's like, a viewpoint from foreigners here in the Philippines and abroad. Also just to tackle and address certain issues maybe that apply to foreigners. We're all here in the same country, but sometimes our life is a little different than others. And so it's always nice and interesting to hear from those people that are doing things here in the country and doing things from abroad that maybe have been here before. And we're also going to look to probably focus on locals, Filipinos who are doing their thing abroad, as this country has a great history with people who have moved abroad, be it OFWs, or other Filipinos who've gone abroad and done some amazing things. So the whole idea here is just a different perspective, checking out the same old things that we all deal with, but from a different set of eyes and a different mind. So I'm really excited to get going. We're going to have some really, really cool people. We've already got some great people lined up for this show, and today is no exception. I'll tell you, yesterday I had the chance to go out to the provinces, out to Laguna and Quezon province. We were out there checking out some ingredient suppliers. I don't know if you guys know, but apart from being an actor and TV show host, I also have a food production company with my lovely girlfriend, a lady named Marietta Subong, aka Pokwang. And we have a food production company. And so one of our things is we need to get ingredients directly from farmers around the country for certain products that we have. And so I finally had the chance yesterday, after how many months of quarantine and restrictions, to go out to the countryside and actually enjoy nature. It was just nice. I found myself literally stopping every few minutes and just looking up at the trees and breathing deep and closing my eyes, because we've been pretty city bound throughout this entire quarantine. And I know some of you probably know what that's like. And I'm sure some of you that are out there in the provinces or out in the wilderness, jungle, forest, beaches, wherever, probably have forgotten or are forgetting what it's like to be in a city packed around people. Either way, you know what it's like not to have the other, and so it felt really good to be back in nature. So I think it's perfect that we have our guest for today. It's a gentleman I had the honor of meeting about 4 years ago when I went down to Davao and walked into this museum. It's called DBone Collector Museum. It's in Davao City. It's totally tucked away. You literally pass through markets and side streets of Davao, pull up into this driveway, go in, and I was blown away by this museum. This museum contains some of the most incredible collections of animal bone structures that are all reformed into the actual animal form. So you literally walk through the entire museum seeing the bone skeletons of animals that are from all over the world, but mostly focused on animals that are brought from here in the Philippines. So it was the most incredible just tour. And what was even more incredible was the guy who's the owner of this museum. He's an American by birth, but also spent lots of time growing up in Thailand and has now been residing here in the Philippines. He's going to correct me on this. I know it's been at least 8 to 10 years, and it might be longer. He comes from a family of missionaries. His parents were missionaries, and he then has since gone into running this museum. But I'm only scratching the surface when I say that he owns a museum. This guy fights fires, goes to do disaster relief after some of the biggest typhoons and hurricanes here in the country. He has also won awards for his museum, but also for environmental work. And I'm going to stop talking about him. I'm going to bring this gentleman on right now. Guy by the name of Darrell Blatchley, who I'd like to welcome on the show. Darrell, you there?
Good morning, Lee.
He's alive. I love it. How are you, Darrell? Thank you for being here, man, first of all.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day out here. We get a little bit overcast, but it's still a wonderful day.
Right on. Well, thank you for being here. And what I'm even more excited about is I virtually get to go back into that museum that just started it all. I mean, please start telling us about how it started with the museum. I mean, it was just phenomenal place to enjoy, and has since won some awards, I believe, as well, that you can explain to us about. But first, let's start with the Bone Collector Museum. This place is amazing. So please, plug.
Yeah, what started pushing me to do this museum is ever since I was a kid, I enjoyed wildlife. I mean, if you look at my kid pictures, I had pet turtles, pet crocodiles, pet monitor lizards. But the sad thing is everything that you ever have as a pet dies eventually. In fact, a couple months ago, our family's pet boxer died, and while my kids were off visiting some relatives, I actually cleaned it up and have it for my kids to now have in their collection. But everything dies eventually. So my parents would bury my pets. I would dig it up to find out why the animal died. But then at the same time, it was the fascination with its life, what it made it work underneath of everything. Because you go to a zoo, you see the elephant, you don't see what makes it work underneath. So I grew up from 5 years old to 15 years old in Thailand. So my parents lived there for 10 years. And in Thailand, when they butcher a water buffalo, they would put the water buffalo's head on the wall in their house, not as a sign of worshiping the animal, but a remembrance of what that animal's life was, providing rice, providing meat, providing basically work. You know, how we would take a picture of our Ferrari or Lamborghini or Mercedes, that was their remembrance of that animal's life. So fast forward to 15 years old, moving to the Philippines, you go to a public market and literally from the tip of the nose to the tip of the tail is consumed. It's chopped up, put into soup, and there's nothing left. So it was going from a country that remembered the life of the animal to a country that basically cooks it. So moved here when I was 15, fell in love with a Filipina, got married when I was 18. And then when I was 21, my wife and I moved to the United States, and we went to a Cabela's hunting goods store in the States. Now, for those that don't know what a Cabela's is, their stores are about 1 hectare in size, and they have everything preserved: grizzly bears, hippos, elephants. It's a natural history museum that sells you the guns to go shoot that animal. So it's an interesting place to go to. As we're walking around in the Cabela's, one of the workers came up and asked me, he goes, "Is your wife a Filipina?" Now, same as you, we don't have any embarrassment to say that, yes, our girlfriend or a wife is from the Philippines. I said, yes,
Right.
she's a Filipino. How did you know? He goes, oh, they're all the same. Now, my wife, like a lot of Filipinas, has a little bit of a temper. She looks at the guy and goes, you white people all look the same. He goes, no. You don't look the same. You're just all the same. I'm standing there going, oh, man, this is not good. I said, so you mean Asians are all the same or just Filipinos? He goes, no, Asians are all different. Filipinos are all the same. Now, this is a Cabela's in Boise, Idaho, a state of only 1.5 million people, and he's saying Filipinos are all the same. I'm going, oh, this is not good. I said, what do you mean? He goes, when a Thai or a Chinese comes in the store, they look at the animals, no big deal. He goes, when a Filipino walks in, they're going, is this a dinosaur, pointing at the giraffe? He goes, doesn't the Philippines have education about natural history? And my wife stands next to me, she goes, yes, we do. But the pictures in our school book are the size of a business card for an elephant, for a whale, for a dolphin. So how can you look at that picture and understand how big it is? And then she goes, if you watch it on TV, it's Kuya Kim on your little TV, and Kuya Kim's this big and the animal's this big. So you cannot imagine how big the animal is until you see it for real life. So fast forward from 2001 to 2008, moved back to the Philippines. I went to the National Museum in Manila, and at the time it was just the National Museum. They didn't have their natural history yet. And so I'm walking around at the National Museum. I said, where's your natural history collection? They go, oh, it's on the 3rd floor. There's a room up there that's called the Bone Room. So I went up in there, and it was embarrassing because literally I had more in my living room than the National Museum had on display. So it was literally where God would say, stop using your personal collection and hiding it in your living room. Make a museum and show the people what they have in this country, but also from other countries. But at the same time, if they don't take care of it, what they're going to lose. So that's really what to build the museum.
So what year did you open the museum? What was the official date?
We registered it as the Bone Collector Museum in 2011, but we opened it to the public January of 2012. And when we opened, go ahead.
And then, excuse me, by 2013, am I right? It was already Mindanao's best museum.
Actually, the first year we opened, we were already awarded as #1 museum of Mindanao. The first year we opened.
Wow.
But we opened with 150 specimens on display. Fast forward 8 years later, we're sitting on 6,500 specimens on display and probably about 4,000 sitting in storage, waiting for the building to be expanded and renovated again so we can put more of it on display. In fact, when you visited 4 years ago, we only had 2,500 specimens on display.
Right. Well, there was already plans for the expansion beyond that because, and this is a great segue. So when it comes to collecting the bones, you were usually getting them donated around the local area, Davao and whatnot, but the bone collection process for you is actually expanded now, right? Like you don't just stay right there in Davao and pick up what comes, to you. There's actual calls around the country, I believe, and possibly internationally, I think you explained to me. So explain a little about that, and a little bit about what you've seen now, like since you've done this now numerous times. Please expand on that.
We'll give you 2 examples. This week alone, I've recovered a olive ridley sea turtle and a sulcata tortoise. The sulcata tortoise was a wealthy family here in Davao City. They probably have 5 or 6 of them as pets. And it's like literally a meter wide tortoise that they've had as a pet for the last 14 years. They said, they could have buried it or they could donate it to the Bone Collector Museum that they've visited several times. And they said by donating it to the museum, they know that animal will live on for education and more people will be able to enjoy it and learn from that animal that they've been able to experience the last 14 years with. Now, let's go back to 2018. I get a phone call at 7 a.m. in the morning from a veterinarian friend in Manila saying, hey, Darrell, there's a guy here in Luzon that has a pet hippo that just died. Do you want it? I'm like, yes, sure, I want it. He goes, you got to get here right now to get it. So I get a phone call at 7 a.m. 9 a.m. I'm at the airport. 9:15 the plane's taking off. That doesn't give you much time to get to the airport, buy the ticket, get through the checkpoint, and get on the plane So it's the relationship you have with the local government, the airports, that you can get to the airport. Here's my ticket, sir. The plane's already closing the gate, and they just whisk you straight to the gate. Get to Manila by 10:30. Pacquiao or rent a taxi at the airport to take you to 100 kilometers outside of Manila to the place that you arrive there. You chop up the hippo, you transport it back to the airport, put it in a crate, and air cargo it back to Davao. That takes a little bit of money sitting on hand. I usually don't have that kind of money sitting on hand because, you know, we have rainy day funds, but this year has been the worst case scenario. Nobody ever has a rainy year fund. So it's to be able to run and do something like that, it takes quite a bit of time, and you also have to have the preparation ready to be able to do it.
Right. And then also one of the things I remember just that was incredibly impressive was when you walked into the museum and the full body sperm whale skeleton that you had running across the ceiling, which was just phenomenal. You know, it's 40 plus feet of pure bone, perfectly structured. You really grab the size of those animals, how beautiful they are, and just how immense compared to us they are. And then, but I haven't understood now. That was number one. There's been successives now, like there's others along with other varieties of other species of whales.
Yes, worldwide there's actually 83 known species of whales and dolphins. The Philippines has 27. We opened the Bone Collector Museum back in 2012. There was only 8 known species of whales to be found here in the Davao Gulf. We have since added 10 species to the Davao Gulf, as well as adding a new species of whale, not just for the Philippines, but for the whole world. In 2012, we recovered a whale here in the Davao Gulf that was 15 feet long and unfortunately died an hour before we arrived there. It had a newborn baby with it that was released immediately. As the mother was already dead, there's no reason to keep the baby on the beach there. Release it if it's alive and healthy. When we opened that whale's stomach, it had a 2-foot nylon rope blocking the intestines. We put pictures because we couldn't figure out what species it was. It was different than any whale that we had found so far. We thought possibly it was a Bluebill beaked whale, which is somewhat common in the Davao Gulf, but all of the pictures came back as unknown. There was an expert in Norway that said, this looks like a new species of whale. So we sent DNA up to Manila to the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. They sent it to Korea and Japan, and in 2013 it was listed as a new species of whale. We have what's called the type specimen, the one that describes the species, but 7 others of the species have been found. But when we say 7 other specimens, it was part of a fin, part of a skull washing up on the beach. We had the one that described the species, showing what it was as a complete specimen. Then in 2015, we found the same species again washed up on a beach here in Davao Gulf. And so we have the only complete female and the only complete male of its species on display anywhere in the world. To give you an example how rare it is, Smithsonian has 2 partial skulls. We have 2 complete skeletons.
My gosh. So let me recap this. Originally, or before DBone Collector Museum and side activities, there was only 7 species known, and now currently you're pushing 20 to 23. Did you say? From on top of the 7, you've discovered 10 more beyond.
For the Davao, yes, for the Davao Gulf. Yeah, for the Davao
just
Gulf.
the Davao Gulf.
Yeah.
Wow.
So for here in the Davao Gulf, we've added 10 new species, not new for science, but new to be found in the Davao Gulf. In our whole collection, we currently are sitting on 70 specimens of whales and dolphins. But as we'll probably talk about it more later, these animals are not dying because of old age. Of the 70 that we have in our collection, 4 were pregnant, but 57 all died because of man. That's everything from fishing nets, dynamite fishing, and plastic garbage being found inside their stomachs.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we don't have to wait till later. Let's dive into this. It's been something. I guess my first question regarding this issue. I've seen your posts online. You post all these amazing pictures, which is another reason to follow Darrell on Facebook and on YouTube. He definitely has a show on YouTube. And the thing on these Facebook pictures is you see the body of a whale beached, and then you see the interiors and the quantity of garbage that you're pulling out of there, the variety of garbage, and then, you know, just the different, you know, areas of garbage. We're not talking just fishing materials. We're not just talking, you know, little sachets of shampoo. Literally, right off the bat, tell me what was the weirdest thing you've discovered inside of a whale?
I don't know how PC this one, or not PC, but how safe we're working. Last year we had, I believe, nine whales last year. We had one die last year. It was, here's the fun part, it was a pygmy sperm whale. It died February 13, but it made the news February 14. And it died because of a small plastic cup and a used condom blocking the intestines.
Dang, you know, there it is.
The ironicness of it, it died the day before Valentine's Day.
Yes, yeah.
With the plastic condom, and it was a pygmy sperm whale. I mean, you can't plan those kind of things. It just was like, oh my, what do we have here? You know, like you're holding it, and then you realize what you're holding, and you're like, oh, okay. Can somebody else please hold this? So that one was February last year, and then in March we recovered one that was a juvenile curvier beaked whale. It weighed 400 kilos, and it should have weighed about 800 kilos. In fact, that one you can see the necropsy video of it on my YouTube channel, Uncle D What's Next. When we opened up that one broke the world record for the amount of plastic garbage found inside of a whale or dolphin. It had 40 kilos, or roughly 88 pounds of plastic garbage, 15 rice sacks inside of its stomach. It had rice sacks. It had banana plantation sacks that they wrap around the bananas. It had sachets. It had grocery bags. It had fishing nets. It just was compacted so much that it had started to calcify in this animal's stomach. Imagine, it had 10% of that animal's body weight in garbage.
Incredible, incredible. And so how long have you been doing this now, that part of the activities of recovering these beached whales? How many years now?
For the last, I think, 11 years, 12 years now. When my wife and I moved back from the States to the Philippines, we would see in the news a whale or a dolphin die, and I was already collecting dead animals at the time. I hadn't started working towards the whales and dolphins because it's a big animal. When you figure an animal that weighs 1,000 to 2,000 pounds, that's a lot of smell that goes with that animal. So we would see in the news a whale die, and the locals would chop it up and consume it, and then you would have food poisoning cases, or other cases they would try to burn it, or other cases they would just bury it. And they're like, you know, we don't know why it died, we just disposed of it. And it was like, whoa, we cover the animal and we'll let you know why it died. So that's where we started partnership, not only with the local government, but with the national government, the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, the DNR, the Department of Environmental and Natural Resources, and say, hey, we'll let you know why this animal died. We'll do it free of charge, but in return, you turn that animal over to us to be used for education in the Bone Collector Museum. We will guarantee you that that animal is not going to be sold as souvenirs for the teeth, the bones. We will use it strictly for education for this country. So we started doing it back in 2009. We recovered our first pygmy sperm whale, as well as the whale that you saw on the third floor, the 41-foot sperm whale. That one was fun because basically one of the barangay captains, we were doing some surfing and some exploration for ecotourism, and the barangay captain goes, oh yeah, we have a big fish that's buried just over here a little ways, actually 50 meters from where we were surfing. So I hired 8 workers, and for the next 15 or 12 to 15 hours, we spent digging up the whale, rented a dump truck to take it to the city, rented a bus to take it over the mountain to get it back to the Bone Collector Museum. And then it took 3 years to put that animal back together, because when it was buried, it had no value. They basically used a bulldozer and a backhoe to crush it to get it to fit in the hole. So the head was in hundreds of pieces to be able to put it together the way you saw on the third floor of the museum here.
That's an incredible puzzle, because that thing looked amazing. And if it's I can't even imagine that being in 100 pieces. I want to ask you something about, you just brought up an interesting point. You mentioned that you work with various government agencies now. When you started doing this, how was the government response then versus now? Like, what has the evolution of that been for you?
I know a lot of them are going to be watching. When I first opened this museum, I was paranoid. I was always worried that one day a government worker is going to come in and seize the whole collection, because as we know, this country has gone from being known as a corrupt country to now being one of the leading examples of how government should run. Now, some people may have different feelings on it. For me personally, I have seen this country come a long ways in the last 25 years. So when this museum first opened, it was, oh, you're the foreigner, you're just trying to make money off of it. As you saw what we charge with the museum entrance, we barely cover cost for the labor, not including electricity, recovery of the animals. This museum is done more as a favor to the country, because literally if we don't take care of what this country is blessed with, there will be nothing left for our kids or our grandkids to be able to enjoy or appreciate. So when we first opened the museum, it's, oh, you're just the Americano trying to take our animals. Now it's, can you please come recover this animal? We want to know why it died, and we want to be able to see it and enjoy it later. So it's come full circle from, you're just trying to make money off of our animals, or you're the crazy white guy getting our dead stinky animals, to please find out why this died. You're doing a service for the country.
Right. And I mean, I've got to imagine some of these people that originally thought that take a one tour through your museum and their mind is changed immediately. Like, you know, it's not, you're not sitting there taking advantage of them. They're getting a lot in return by being able to see, you know, displays that I mean, some of those displays are pretty phenomenal, especially the snakes with those, you know, minute I see Exhibit A, you know, those minute collections of bones that they have, you know, all lined up and all set up, you know, pythons in perfect shape, boas, perfect shape. You know, I've got to believe that some of those people, it's not eating your words. They just have a new perspective on what you're doing once they come by.
One of the fun ones is when it was quite a few years ago, it was basically, I labeled it the whale wars. The whale war years was when it was a conflict of other places trying to copy what the Bone Collector Museum was doing. So they were trying to use their financial influence to basically be able to go in and take an animal. And so we had a sit down with one of the, I won't name the government branch that it was at the time, because we're since fixed and we're friends and everything now. But they were telling me, well, here's what the law stipulates, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, okay, what book are you using to quote me these laws? And so they hold up the book and they go, this one. I said, oh, okay. Can you please flip to page 3, go down about 4 names and read me who wrote the book? And so they go down and it's like, basically mic drop, you know, Mr. Darrell Blatchley of the Bone Collector Museum. I said, I can tell you how the law was written. The law states that if the whale or dolphin dies, it is to be donated to a museum for educational purposes, not for financial, but for educational purposes. And if anybody is not willing to take it, it is then to be rendered disposed of by burial. So if you have a governmental province that says, we're taking all these whales and dolphins and then we're going to bury it, they have thus declared that they are disposing of it by burial. So they're stating that they don't even know how to do the preservation. So thus we come in and take it.
There it is. That I mean, totally going on a side tangent here, but it's got to be pretty nice when you tell someone to flip to the author and it's you. You wrote the book on it. Okay, good.
Right there, check that, and it was like no more questions. Yeah. Everybody looked at each other at the table, and it's like, okay.
D-A-R-R-E. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's spelled the same. All right, good to hear. Right on.
Further, it says how to dispose of it. Yeah, you see right there that chapter. Yes.
That's awesome. Well, hey, Darrell, hold on for a second. We're going to take a break now, but we're going to come back because you've got more to offer than the Bone Collector Museum. So let's talk about some other stuff. We're going to hit a commercial break right now for TNC, the new channel, but come right back to Foreign Affairs. Thanks, guys.
Cool.
Welcome back, everybody, to Foreign Affairs world premiere today. Guess what? Here on the new channel, this is not the only show, obviously. There are dozens of other great shows that will be coming up here on the screen that you should definitely check out. They cover all the bases, all sorts of themes, talk about money, talk about family, talk about relationships, talk about all sorts of different ideas and concepts that you can watch here on the new channel. This concept was born literally during the pandemic and now has grown to this big staple of shows. As you can see, we're over a dozen shows, almost 15 shows now, and growing. And the viewership has been growing big too, because the variety, the quality, all these other people that are hosting the shows, such as we just saw Mr. Lloyd Luna, The Big Picture, a show that I was fortunate to guest on. All these shows offer different kinds of quality at different times of day when you want to check them. And they're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. So keep on checking into the new channel. We are here to help you see the new you. Right on. Well, let's get back to Mr. Darrell. Mr. Darrell, could you come back here, please? Try and do the...
I'm here.
I'm trying to keep it Filipino.
Come here.
Come here. Come here.
Yeah.
So,
do you want to go over there?
We'll keep... Yeah, no, you're over there. You come here. I'll go over there.
Yeah, you see
so, man... yeah, get them up big. Get them up way high. So actually,
yes,
it's funny. I'm really glad we're. What's that? What's
yes,
that?
Mr. O'Brien. Yes, Mr. O'Brien, sir.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that, sir. So actually, I'm really glad we've been talking. We were talking previously about the DBone Collector Museum because, to be honest, when you and I have chatted or I've checked in on you as of the last few years, the museum is one aspect, but I got to tell you, man, you're a jack of all trades. You got all these crazy skills and backgrounds to you. First of all, let's talk about the previous the two previous typhoons that came through the Philippines, in which you went down and answered the call, not as part of any organization or any specific group or any military. This is just a big heart, missionary minded guy who wants to help his fellow people. So please expand a little bit about what, the two typhoon recovery efforts that you participated in. Would love to hear about that.
Yeah, the first one was Typhoon Pablo, and I cannot take credit for it. My parents are missionaries here in Davao City, and they've been here for the last 25 years. They work in partnership with Convoy of Hope that actually ships over about 2 40-foot containers every single year with rice packs, manna packs, which provides food and stuff that they do for their feeding programs here. With Typhoon Pablo, we were able to go into the areas that had just within hours been hit by the typhoon, help recovering the dead bodies, help recover the injured people, transporting them our personal vehicles, bringing them back here to Davao to be able to go to the hospital, because Typhoon Pablo was one of the first ones before there was really a set standard or set response team for going out for these disasters. Now, you've seen in the last 8 years the country get more and more prepared with these, but it seemed like before it was you were each to your own area on your own. So Pablo was basically the start of it. We were able to take in, when I say we, me working under my parents' ministry, under the Family Circus Children's Ministry, we were able to take in over 70,000 meal packs into these areas that had just been hit. We would deliver the relief and then come back, load the vehicle out again. Now, we were doing it up until the point that it actually became dangerous for ourselves when they started setting up roadblocks and would literally drag the people out of the vehicle and take everything you had. In fact, the last trip we went out there, I said, when we go in this convoy, I was driving, we have they call it an Oso steel jeepney. This is before my disaster zombie apocalypse vehicle. I said, everybody needs to stay in tight formation behind us. If there is a roadblock, 15 roadblocks on the way in, I said, if there's a roadblock on our way out at night, I said, do not stop. I don't care if we run over somebody, don't stop. Because if you stop, they're going to drag us out of the vehicle and then our lives are in danger. So the last night there was a roadblock. They had fire stuff put in the middle of the road. Our 3 vehicles, we busted through the roadblock, and that was it. We didn't go back out there anymore because there was not a good enough government presence between point A and point B to be able to deliver the relief goods. So we stopped at that point. Then you go to 2013 Typhoon Yolanda, and because of our experience with Typhoon Pablo, we said we're not going to these areas that do not have the proper setup. And so my mom and I were saying, my dad, he stays down and basically holds the fort down. He doesn't do well with the sight of blood or the smell of dead. So my mom, people go, your mom, why would,
whereas
we would not go unless.
Whereas you go running to any kind of bone, flesh torn, blood spatter you can find, right? Yeah. But please continue. So my mind.
Duterte had volunteered. Yeah, Duterte had gone in the helicopters and gone for the first response to Tacloban for Yolanda. He came back to Davao and he says, we need responders that are willing to recover the dead. Their only job was to recover the dead, because the only way the living can move on and start recovering is if the dead are removed. So Duterte asked Davao City, which at the time I think was 1.5 or close to 2 million people, he said, we need volunteers to go get the dead bodies. Now, that was our cue, because we knew that if Duterte and his team was going to be going, we knew we would have the safety of the military as well as the police in those convoys.
Right.
So I went in and I signed up, my mom and I, to be able to go do the recovery. Now, that evening, the night we were supposed to leave, he comes out on the news and he was very unhappy. In fact, somewhere, I believe if you pull up the news report on it, he was happy because he goes, I asked you, Davao City, for volunteers to go recover your dead relatives in Tacloban. He goes, you did not respond to the call. He goes, only 2 people from the private sector. They had a team of 100+ doctors and everything from the government sector. He says, but from the private sector, only 2 people volunteered. And he goes, and they're not even your blood. He goes, one recovers your dead animals, and he's a foreigner. So it was, we weren't doing it to be a political statement. We're doing it because I would hope that the Filipino, and they do, do the same thing if they were in the United States and if it was our relatives in America. So we went there, and as we're loading up onto the buses to drive the 24 plus hours to Tacloban, they said, you realize that you're going just to be picking up dead bodies. You're not planning on leaving to go to a different group or anything. And we said, no, we're going strictly to be recovering dead bodies. They look at my mom and they're like, you know, these bodies have now been dead for 8 days. And we said, yes, we understand that. We had been doing that with Pablo. So we get there and they put us in all of the PPE suits, and our job was to go and pick up the dead bodies. And it was, you're loading these dead bodies onto a 10-wheeler dump truck that you're lifting it literally up over your head. And from the first body to the last body, we made sure that there was 4 people on each one of the body bags. It didn't matter if literally you could pick up that bag with one hand. We did it out of respect for that person, that we had 4 people carrying it as if we were pallbearers. And the hardest ones were the ones that you could literally pick up with one hand, because as you're lifting that bag, you're judging, this is the weight of my own son at home. So it was, I choke up when I talk about it, because you were lifting somebody else that they may be the next, the parent may be in the next bag next to them, but you were giving them that last right. And then those bodies were delivered to the mass graves and literally piled like firewood on top of each other. So you were the last person to give that body any dignity before they went into the ground. So
that is amazing to hear. One thing I know about Yolanda is that's kind of like this big point in Philippines history, right? Like, you talk to people, pull up, Andoy, and they pull up this and they pull up this, these different typhoons. But Yolanda's one of those ones where it was like the game changed. It got, it was different. It hit hard. It hit a lot of people over a big area, left lasting effects. Like carrying on to that, did you see, carrying on till today, have you seen the response now? Like, have you seen, what steps have you seen taken that are handling to respond to these events that have improved since 2013 when you went?
Not only has the country become more prepared, I believe it's probably a lot of it is under the current administration, but the other thing that before Yolanda, every time relief goods showed up, it would have a sticker of the politician's face on that relief good. Yeah. Whether or not he was the one that donated it, they would be putting stickers on it right and left going, hey, we did this for you, vote for us. That changed a lot under Yolanda. In fact, that's why the 911 from the Davao group pulled out. They were like, we're not doing this for publicity. We're not doing it for the politics. We're doing it because this is our people. This is our fellow man, our fellow Filipino and Filipina. We should be doing it no matter who votes for you. This is our responsibility. That's where a lot of it started to change. That's where Filipinos even started getting sick, going, whoa. Why are you politicking our dead relative? And so that's where we started to see a lot of the change. But then you started to see all of these small towns now having to take responsibility, because if they don't have the gear that they were paid for to recover, to be purchasing, and then that disaster hits, then people are going, hey, you were paid to do this, why didn't you do it? There started to become the accountability, which we then started to see, which that's where the country started to change and actually start to take care of itself, which that was the pivot point.
Let's continue on that idea of the accountability and funding. And one thing that amazes me, and I don't know if I have it confirmed, I'm going to need you to confirm this. And I had seen this throughout Latin America too, in a lot of countries. And it's this concept of fire departments that are either volunteer and or ridiculously low funded. And in my perspective, in my life, what I believe I've learned is that you have to make firefighters and fire departments and firefighting and prevention paramount. It's like one of the original functions, like it's one of the key elements, right, of like life, human life existing on Earth. Like managing that should be a priority. And so many countries and so many places have volunteer and or ridiculously low funded fire departments. So they're AKA not a priority. What is your opinion on that? Second, let's get into what you've done down there in Davao in terms of firefighting too. We're not talking just, you haven't just responded to environmental issues with the animals. You haven't responded to typhoon relief. Talk about the firefighting you also do.
Okay, we have two that I can use an example. We respond to a lot of them. And in fact, before the end of this month, I will be signing up and going in and putting my biodata to actually be joining the volunteer Chinese firefighters for here in Davao, because up until now, I would show up at a fire and they would point me in the direction that they needed me to go. Now, to give a history of why I'm even doing the firefighting, when I was in the United States from 2001 to 2008, I was working as an aviation fuel engineer doing forest firefighting. So when you're doing aviation fuel engineer, they're teaching you how to do the fires. Even though you may not be the one actually on the fire at times, they're teaching you what you need to be doing, and you're learning from everything else going on around you. So when we moved back to the Philippines, okay, 2014, they had what they called the Isla Verde fire here in Davao City. 1,400 houses burned, 3,000 families affected. I don't try to figure out the math on that, but whatever. During that fire, we went in and we were rescuing people out of their houses. If they're gonna value their items in their house more than their life, I leave it alone. On that particular fire in 2014, I was later awarded a medal for bravery because there was 6 firefighters. We won't say the group. It was not from the Davao City 911. It was from a volunteer group, but there's a canal that separates these two squatters, probably wrong word, 2 subdivisions that are a lot of it shanty houses. On the other side of this nasty canal, there was a 2-story building, and on top of the 2-story building was 6 firefighters hosing down the other houses that were burning. Little were they aware, the building themselves that they were standing on was on fire. We're all on this side yelling at them, trying to get their attention. They were not paying attention. And so I looked at the other firefighters and I said, somebody's got to go rescue them. They're like, it's a nasty canal. It is literally the septic canal. You think a nasty canal is a metaphor. This was that kind of canal. And I said, well, somebody's got to do it. They're not hearing us. The fire's too loud. So I swam through that black mucky canal that's like that deep, walked through the fire, because now you're covered in mud. You're kind of pretty much fireproof.
Yeah, technically.
Through the burning house, climb up to the top, yank on. Hey, whoa, you look at the whoa, thing on it. So they start, you think of the movies, the slow motion of they're running as the roof is collapsing behind them, and they get off the building as it collapses. Had I not swam through that, they would have fallen through the 2nd floor roof into the inferno and died.
Oh, man.
I swam down the burning building, and as we're standing there with the other fire department, a guy runs his house 3 houses down, already on fire, because he's going in to rescue his dog that he heard barking in his house. Now, from where we were standing to his house is already all on fire. We're standing there waiting. He doesn't come out. A minute, 2 minutes go by. He doesn't come out. He's dead. I said, somebody's got to go in and get him. I mean, you're in the middle of the fire. And I said, somebody's got to go in to get him. They said, he's dead. We're not going in to get somebody that ran in to get a dog. I said, hose me down. So they hose me down. I go down the 3 houses, go in, and he's collapsed unconscious in his living room. I pick him up, throw him over, firemen carry him out of the house, and then come out, and he's still alive. He pulls him off, he wakes up, and and so somebody got that picture, and it never made it to the newspaper, which I was fine. I was notified about the picture. They said, we have the picture of you rescuing that guy, but we never put it in the paper because you didn't do it for that recognition. And I didn't. None of what I do on the humanitarian side is done for them to go, oh, Mr. Blatchley, you're such a wonderful man. Because I know who I am. I'm not a wonderful guy. I have a temper. I have a mouth. I can be my own worst time. So
we're gonna discuss that. Hey, Darrell, give it
Yeah.
1 second. We're gonna break real quick, but when we come
Okay.
back, I want to continue this thought about you being not a good guy, because we got to figure that out. Hold on 1 second. We're gonna take a break here on the new channel. We'll be right back with Foreign Affairs. Thanks for watching, guys. I like that bluegrass. I got to admit, I love the intro. Welcome back to Foreign Affairs. This on the new channel. I'm Lee O'Brien, your host. We are talking with Darrell Blatchley, and I just feel like it's been a rush, talking about recovering bones, saving the environment, hurricane typhoon relief. We're talking about everything right now. I even got the neighbors talking now. So hey, everybody's talking about Darrell Blatchley. Let's bring Darrell back on. Darrell, we left you claiming you're not you can be a bad guy. You got a bad side. We haven't seen it yet, winning these awards and being just a huge heart hero down there in Davao and throughout the country. I hate to cut off your fire discussion, because I just find it just enthralling. But I gotta talk to you, because the title of this show is Foreign Affairs. So I gotta talk foreigner to foreigner about, because I'm so glad you're here for this, because you're that guy who was born in the States, then you spent that childhood period from 5 to 15 in Thailand, then you end up back in the States. Am I correct? Right.
15 years old here to the Philippines, and then after getting married and then I was 21 years old, moved to the States for 7 years, and then back again here.
Back here,
Yeah, so
right.
most of my life is here.
Got it. So,
Yeah.
I got to ask you, as much as you have been around Davao, as much as you've done for Davao, as much as you're known in Davao, I got to assume you're still the foreigner. Is that right?
Yeah. No matter what you do, you'll always be the foreigner. When it comes to talking about garbage, you'll have the 99 people that are for you for what you're doing. Then you'll have the 1% says, go back to your own country. If you don't like it here, go back to your own country.
Yes. Yeah. How do you deal with, like at this point, how do you deal with, not the conflict. I mean, it's almost straying away from this point that we were just talking about. How do you deal with the things that sometimes irk you about the different country or the formation that you have as an individual? How do you work with that?
I've been declared person non grata 3 times, so that maybe
Good.
I didn't respond properly the 3 times, but every time I've gotten in trouble, maybe not every time, but most of the times I've gotten in trouble is because I was doing it for the country. And when you have those that actually use common sense and look at what I'm saying and what I'm doing for the fullness of it, then they go, yes, he's doing it for the betterment. But then you have the ones that only look at your white skin. They don't even listen to the fact that you're speaking the language fluently. They go, oh, you're just a white guy. You want it to be like America. I didn't move to the Philippines to make the Philippines like America. I moved here because God brought my parents here as missionaries, and God brought my wife and I back here to the Philippines back in 2008. So I'm not here because I want to turn the Philippines into America. Far from it. The culture that the Philippines has as far as blessing or amen to their parents or their lolo and their lola, the old style of courting your girlfriend, you ask the family's permission to be able to court her, that whole system, that is what this country is losing to become like America. So to say that I want the Philippines to become like America, no, no, no. There's a lot of good core values that this country has that they need to go back to, but at the same
Come back.
has the beautiful paradise before they lose it.
Right. Right. No, it's a very good point. That I'm amazed by the beauty, my observation, layman's observation of being here in the Philippines is it is hands down one of the most beautiful, spectacular places on the face of the earth.
I've traveled.
And I mean, you know, like that's what I was going to say. You've been to so many places. Actually, I think, what I wonder about too, though, specifically talking about your case, do you find that like having that period from 5 to 15 living in Thailand when you were so young, do you think that helped some of your perspective in dealing with being a foreigner and helped with your ability to go to a new place, such as 12 years ago or 13 years ago when you came to the Philippines and started a new life with your wife? Do you think there was some lesson to be learned in that? And did that help you? Do you feel like that helped you?
When I moved to the Philippines, I wasn't happy about moving to the Philippines because Thailand had been home from 5 years old to 15. So when I moved here with my parents when I was 15 years old, I wasn't learning the language. We found out there was a crocodile park really close to where we lived, so I was going there every weekend. I met my wife when I was 15 years old, and so immediately it was like I was sitting next to my mom, in fact, at church, and I said, "That's the woman I'm going to marry." My mom looked at me. She goes, "You're crazy. You're 15 years old." After church, went up, asked the lady, "Hey, what's your name?" Whatever. And so I said, "Can you be my girlfriend?" And she's like, "I don't even know who you are. You need to ask my parents' permission, you need to whatever. And so you need to learn the language before I'll be your girlfriend, because if you say that you love me, you should love my country. And if you love my country, you need to know the language." So fast forward, my parents sent me with some other missionaries to General Santos. And in 2 months, I learned the language enough to get permission from her parents to be able to court her. So part of saying if you love the country, you got to learn the language, because if you're living here and you don't speak the language, there's that huge barrier. I've watched you do great on your Tagalog. But imagine somebody moving to America, waving the American flag, go, "I love America," but you don't speak English. It doesn't work very good for you.
Right. No, and vice versa. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I find it funny. I love how, my big, deep, philosophic question, it just takes hanging that little carrot out in front of your face of, will she say yes to me? Can I, can I get this job? You just need, sometimes it's just a little carrot hanging in front of you. You're going to accomplish some amazing things. That is definitely true. I want to ask you, if I'm a new guy or lady and I'm stepping off the plane, first time in the Philippines or anywhere in the world, what would be the advice to that person? How would they be able to deal with specifically the cultural differences? What do you recommend? What's your advice?
My perfect advice, even for, say, the Philippines, is don't forget what made you fall in love with this country. I see so many foreigners come here. They go, "Oh, this country is so wonderful. The people are wonderful." Yes, the people are wonderful, but this is their country. When you come here, and then you want them to change to become American. It doesn't work that way. Now, there are things that, yes, we will always want them to change. It doesn't matter if you're from America, if you're from South Africa, there's always things you're going to want to change here. I've traveled throughout the Philippines, Zamboanga, Hulu, Tawi-Tawi, and less than 1% of the people I would actually consider scary. The Filipinos majority are good personality. Now, there's, as you and I both know, there's always the underlining, well, you're rich, so you owe me. That's not always the Filipino tendency, but it does come across that way because we're seen as having more, or because we're white, thus we have money. Try not to get it under your skin. Try to avoid it. You know, we can't always avoid it. We do have that stress. I have more white hair than when I first moved here, but don't forget why you fell in love with the country. There's the falling in love. There's the boyfriend girlfriend stage. There's the honeymoon stage. Then there's the throwing the plates and the pots and pans at each other. Then there's I'm not talking to you. And if you can get back to why you fell in love with the country, you'll be able to stay here. If not, it's signing the divorce. I'm out of here. Don't ever get to that point. Don't forget why you fell in love with the Philippines. If it has to be because of the beautiful beaches, the jungles and everything, go back to those places. Start falling in love with it again. Start looking at what it was about the people that you fell in love with to begin with. I've been here 25 years. Sometimes it's almost too hard to go back and look at that. Sometimes you literally have to just put the blinders on and say, there's only so much I can do to help this country, but it's not what I can do to help the country. It's what I can do in the areas I'm put in. And it's not me being able to help them, because if they don't want that help, you can't force that help onto them. So what can I do to help you? Not this is here, I'm your savior, I'm going to help you. What can I do to help you? And sometimes they don't want our help. Step back and say, okay, no problem.
It's a whole new take on random acts of kindness. You know, like well managed random acts of kindness.
Sometimes your kindness can get them killed. You go, oh, you need a bicycle. Here's a bicycle, but they don't even know the road safety. They go out and they get ran over. Then it's your fault because you gave me the bicycle.
Right. Exactly. Right on. Yeah, no, I always like to know what, you know, others are thinking. And then I guess to answer or to follow up on yours, what is it that you loved about the Philippines? What did you fall in love with?
I fell in love with my wife. I fell in love with my wife. I fell in love with the country. Now I have 2 sons. It's trying to leave something for my 2 sons that they can still be able to see, not just the dead animals in the display cases. I take them out in the jungle. In fact, 2 weekends ago, we were literally out in the jungle doing a rope swing out over a river. So showing them those things so that it's not the tablet in front of them, it's getting out and to enjoy these things and letting them realize that if they don't take care of it, if we don't take care of it, that's not going to be there for them. But in some cases, it literally is enjoy it now, because this unfortunately will not be here for you anymore. So enjoy it while we have it.
Yeah, right on. Yeah. No, that's wonderful. And it's great to see the evolution. You know, went from an individual, an amazing woman to, you know, to grow into your sons, and along somewhere on that trajectory, you've done all these crazy great, crazy good and beneficial things for society and for yourself. I'm always entertained by watching, you know, your Facebook posts, and literally it adds so much excitement and happiness, man, for me to see that. So I really congratulate you on that. Hey,
well, keep following me on YouTube. I'm always adding more stuff. Always looking for more to do.
This is the segue, man. This is the segue. Hype your game right now, please. I want to hear tell us about the museum. Tell us where you can find you on YouTube. We're on Facebook. Go, bro. You got T-minus 60 seconds.
Okay, the DBone Collector Museum unfortunately is closed because of the corona pandemic. We are using this time to expand the building, but also renovate the display. So when it opens, you'll be able to find it on Facebook. The other thing is you can follow me on YouTube, Uncle D, What's Next? It's everything from my shows that I've had before, but also daily ones going out to recover animals and I'm hoping to add more material to it, whether it's a sit down and talk about the current situation that we've seen with whatever's going on with the environment and or projects that we're working on, but also you can follow us on YouTube or on Facebook as well. I don't automatically accept everybody that sends me a Facebook invite. I'm sorry. I do it for the privacy and the safety of my family. Whatever I post on public, you can see it there. If it's something I posted for family members or for friends only, sorry, I do it for the safety of my family. I would like to thank Davao City government because their work with us to be able to help us to be able to do what we do here, the BFAR, the DNR, only with their help as well as my family. And last but not least, but the most important is God. I could not have done any of this without God's help, because it would be physically impossible to be able to make a museum of this magnitude without God's help behind it. You have to love what you're doing, but you have to have God behind you to be able to do it. So I thank God and I thank my family for all the years and sacrifice of putting up with me doing this.
Sounds great, Darrell. Hey, nothing but respect and love for you, man. Thank you for being here on the premiere episode. I really appreciate it. And you just keep doing good on you, man, because I know it's just going to benefit so many people. Like, you know, your web of influence just extends so far out and creates so much good. And also, please give your mom and dad my best, and give the boys my best, and the wifey. I had the pleasure of meeting your mom, obviously, about a year or two ago, and just an amazing soul. So I see where it comes from, man. You know, you're a product of certain creation. I know that. So, dude, thank you for your time, brother, and wishing you all the best. Everyone, check this guy out, Darrell Blatchley. When you get down to Davao, check out the DBone Collector Museum. Check him out on YouTube as well. Thank you, Darrell. Appreciate it. Thank you for being on the show, my man. God bless.
See you later. God bless.
God bless. Yeah, I from the first time I met that guy, just been thoroughly impressed with him. You know, he's just such a down-to-earth guy, really, you know, authentic, so much integrity and doing so much good in the world. Really like redefines, you know, 24 hours in a day. I swear every time I see him on Facebook, it's he alluded to his new vehicle, his Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome vehicle. Literally, it's a Humvee that's tricked out beyond, you know, it probably goes through the vast majority of walls and edifices. Anyways, get down to Davao, check out the Bone Collector Museum. You will be amazed when it reopens. A great spot for tourism. If you're in Davao, definitely go check it out as well. And go on YouTube. This guy is probably like the world's most interesting man meets the crocodile hunter, mixed into one, melded into one. And as you can see, we only skimmed the surface on this guy's knowledge. So thank you, Darrell, for being here. Hey, everybody, this has been the premiere of Foreign Affairs. I really appreciate all of you that tuned in and checked this out. I was really excited to get this ball rolling. And we're going to have a lot more great episodes to come. We're going to be talking to a lot more foreigners from different areas of life, different feedback, different experiences. But I can't wait to share them with you. If you guys know some foreigners that are crazy, got some good experiences, got some knowledge, you want me to feature here on the show, send them in. We'll check them out. You can definitely send them to my Facebook at Lee O'Brien media page on Facebook, or you can check me out on Instagram on Lee O'Brien. Also like to tell you guys about what I'm doing with my girlfriend. We have our Poke Lee Cooking YouTube, which is every week we put up a picture or a different video, vlog of a different recipe and our adventures here as a family. And then we also have Poke Lee Food Products. So go check it out on Instagram or Facebook. DM us today. We got all the Filipino goodies. We got the suka, we got laing, alige, tuyo, tinapa, and we got some amazing farm direct strawberry and pineapple jams coming to you. And for those of you that are watching abroad, promise we will get the products to you abroad. We're working on that now. Through the pandemic, we're taking the steps to make that happen. But I just want to say to all of you, thank you so much for tuning in. And check us out next Tuesday at 10:30 a.m., same place, same time. And going to have another great guest on to talk life and foreign affairs. And really appreciate all of you coming today. And make sure you tune into some other channels and other shows here on the new channel. not other channels. Tune into this channel, watch the other shows on this channel. That's what I wanted to say. Anyways, thank you all for tuning in. Really appreciate it. God bless you all, and I will catch you guys next week, 10:30 a.m. on Tuesday. Love you all. This is Lee O'Brien signing off on Foreign Affairs.